Hello, it is Spiritual Muse here once again to talk to you about another wonderful full moon that we have. Full moon is always an awesome time to focus on releasing and the things that we want to change in our lives, the things that we want to transform. So this full moon is a full moon in Scorpio on May 18th. It's going to rise full in the sky on the East Coast at 5:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then on the West Coast, it's going to be at 2:11 p.m. PST. So we have this full moon in Scorpio, and Scorpio is a water sign. So water signs always kind of make us think about our emotions, our intuition, things like that. It's going to make us want to go really deep into our emotions, our thoughts, things like that. We have some interesting things going on with Mercury, so we're going to be kind of in that energy as well with communication. We're going to have a strong need to look within and a focus on our feelings. Scorpio is ruled by the planet Pluto, which also comes into play in a different way during this. But Pluto is all about transformation and regeneration, right? So the scorpion can kind of walk around just like, normal, hanging out, and then he can transform and be kind of scary with that tail, that stinger that comes up, right? So we have this kind of interesting change, this transformation that happens within the sign, which relates to the whole Pluto's need for transformation and regeneration, sort of like a rebirth. So transformation is not just change, it's just total rebirth. You're never the same. It's all totally different, right? It's just totally unique. So we have that going on with Scorpio, and it's going to cause us to want to sort of shed our skin like a snake. So we're going to transform. We're going to just shed out all this stuff we don't need, possibly relationships in our lives, possibly old ways of thinking, all of these sorts of things, especially because we're getting into sort of the intellect with all of the stuff that's going on with this moon. So it's going to cause us to shed this skin, and it's going to be painful at times. It's not going to be the most beautiful process. We're going to have sort of bumpy areas, and we're going to have maybe some scabs going on. Healing is not the most beautiful thing. This letting go is not always the most beautiful thing that happens during a full moon, but it's going to turn out beautiful. It's like, like the awkward caterpillar that cocoons and then turns into a butterfly. It's awkward and it can be painful, but it's necessary, and in the end it is how it's supposed to be, and it's beautiful and it's perfect, and it never could have happened without the pain and the awkwardness and the discomfort that comes from transformation. So lots of interesting things happening, lots of transformation coming. So we may be in the midst of that. So we need to let go of anything at this time during this full moon. We also have the moon opposite Mercury, which is going to bring about this communication stuff that I mentioned. So it's going to be a little bit harder to share our feelings because there's sort of an opposition of ideas going on right now, which we may have noticed in the world. There's a lot of, maybe not so favorable things that are happening. You might hate it. Someone else might love it, unfortunately. And, if you love it, someone else might hate it, whatever is going on in the world or in your personal life. So there's a lot of stuff happening that we could be having interesting communications that are not easy with people. We're going to want to really try to, instead of engaging in those, it's better sometimes to spend some time reflecting on the good things that we have, reflecting on ways we want to transform in our lives, and speaking with people that really get us, right? Like mentors, people that can really be there for you in a positive way that can help you to transform. And that's a really powerful thing that you can have, is to listen to people and to be around people that are on the same wavelength as you, that believe the same things that you do, or, at least ones that don't make you feel combative necessarily, because this can be kind of a difficult energy. It can be sort of it can be bringing out like violent tendencies. It can be bringing out all sorts of things like that with some of this other stuff that's going on in the sky too. And I'll bring up some of the fixed stars too that can bring out some animosity in us as well. So if you want to avoid all of that, then you can kind of just like take some time reflecting, hang out with mentors, be in a safe space, right? Because we don't all want to go out and fight, right? It's not something that we all need right now in our journey. However, if you do feel like you want to be a vigilante and go out and fight the good fight, then this is also an excellent time for that. When you can do it, especially hopefully if you can do it in a peaceful way, if you can sort of make your points heard, it's a really powerful time for that as well. And if you're okay with a little bit of confrontation, you know, as long as it doesn't escalate to violence, I see no reason why you can't go out and do that as well and speak your mind and speak your truth. But that being said, that you don't have to if you're not ready for that. We have the moon sextile Pluto, which is a very positive influence. Yay, positivity. So we have the moon sextile Pluto, which leads to deeper understandings. We can have relationships evolve, or possibly we might want to move on from relationships. And it can give us the freedom to move on, right? When maybe we feel a little bit stuck in a relationship, during this full moon, we can actually sort of find the freedom to be able to walk away, right? When we know that something is not positive for us, or maybe it's toxic. And Scorpio is also all about true relationships. So if there's relationships in your life that aren't feeling true, either work on them and find the truth in them, or maybe realize in yourself that this is something that you want to walk away from. And that's okay. You always have the space to do that if that's what you need. And we're also going to be looking into deeper mysteries because of this sextile to Pluto. So it can be a really interesting time to sort of find out things. And, you know, if you're in any type of work where you're doing things like this, where you're trying to like make new discoveries, or you're trying to solve a crime, say, it's actually a really powerful time for that. So we might see in the world a lot of different things being solved right now. Transforming into a solution is a beautiful thing, right? So that could be happening. And that also has to do with the fact that Mercury is trine Pluto. So this brings about a very inquisitive energy. It makes us want to solve things. It makes us want to know how things work. It's really helpful for us if we're trying to become an expert on something. So if you're in school, or if you're self-taught and you're trying to teach yourself something, it's a really excellent energy in order to learn more about a subject, and it can really allow you to increase that intellect quickly. So that's awesome. And you're going to want to really hang out with people that understand your depth, right? So if you want to talk about deeper things than like the weather, or, you know, some minute thing that happened to you, you know, maybe you want to talk about deeper things. Maybe you want to talk about spirituality. Maybe you want to talk about the moon. Maybe you want to talk about who knows what, you know, angel numbers, anything. Maybe it's not even spiritual. Maybe it's just something deeper about life. Maybe you want to have an existential conversation about like what is the meaning of life, or maybe you want to, who knows, anything, right? I mean, these are the things I want to talk about. So yours might be something totally different, but you're going to want to kind of connect with people that are interested in the depth of you and not just that shallow aspect of you, because Scorpio wants real strong, wonderful relationships. And since we have that Mercury trining Pluto at the same time, we have communication with Mercury, and then we have the transformative energy of Pluto. So we're going to be transforming the way we communicate, right, with other people. So we don't have to have boring conversations. Does anyone really want to have a boring conversation? I mean, I don't want to ever talk about like really things like the weather or things that just don't excite my soul, because that's not an interesting conversation that's going to last for me. I don't want to complain about my day. I don't want to talk about anything other than something that lights a fire in me. So if you can have more interesting conversations like that with people, like even just someone you meet at the gas station, if you can have a more in-depth conversation with them, then do it. Like, it's going to feel good right now, especially, and it's going to be a time that other people want that too. So if there's someone that you really have been thinking you want to connect with on a deeper basis, try to ask them an interesting question about themselves, or Try to ask them, something deeper than just like, how was your day? Because people always want to just say it was good or it was fine. You need to ask questions that lead to bigger answers, right? And bigger conversations. So this is a time, and I'd like to challenge all of you to, and I'll challenge myself too, to have these bigger conversations with everyone. Like just open it up, and you never know who's going to be willing to receive that and who's going to just jump into it with you. And those are the people that you want to connect with right now. So we also have the moon opposite the minor planet of Sedna. And this relates to the environment and community and learning to talk about things that maybe aren't easy to talk about, like global warming, right? It's not easy to talk about that sometimes. It hurts sometimes to talk about these things. But these are, again, the conversations that can be really important to have, because we want to let other people know who we really are and what we really care about. And if these are things that you care about, then you should be sharing that with people. That's what you really need to talk about. And this can also bring up, memories and things that could be sort of something catastrophic for you. So maybe you want to have a conversation with someone about something that was difficult from your past in a way that's not burdening them, like asking them if they have space for it, and then, sharing on a deep level. And that can build a really amazing relationship with someone if you're vulnerable and open like that. And Scorpio just loves deep conversations like that and just loves deep connections with others. It's just such a beautiful thing to have this vulnerability and to be vulnerable about, all of the things that sometimes we're afraid to speak about. So this moon opposite the minor planet Sedna can bring us about in these conversations about things that we really care about. Like, what do we really care about? What causes do you really care about? What do you want to get out there about and change? And what do you want to change in your own life too? So that's going to be cool. So I'm excited to see what you guys do with that. And then we have some fixed stars in play as well, which, it gets a little more complicated to go into the stars, but I do like to discuss them because it shows you more of what's going on, and it's all interconnected with what's happening. So if I didn't go over this, we might not get the full in-depth effect of what's going on with this moon and what's going on in the stars right now. So we have the fixed star, the Libra constellation, so is kind of in play with Scorpio right now, and it's punishing hate and rewarding love. So that's really interesting. So the scales of the Libra scale, because Libra's all about justice, is kind of tilting towards love. And how beautiful is that, right? So hateful people might get some karma right now. People that have been cruel or unkind, or, people that aren't really there for other people, or that are being just like in general hateful. And we all probably unfortunately know someone that tends to lean towards hate instead of love. Well, just pay attention, because they might have karma bite them in the butt right now. So, and people that are focusing on love and abundance are going to be receiving so much right now. And that is just so amazing. So if you're someone, and I'm sure you are if you're watching this, who is open to love and is giving love, well, the universe is going to show you some abundance. So look out for it. Be ready to accept it when it comes your way. And don't be shy to accept it, right? Because you deserve it. So accept it with grace and gratitude. And then we're also going to be coming to terms with ourselves and our past on a personal level and also a planet level. So if we think about some of the things that are happening in our personal lives and on a planet or countrywide level, we're kind of coming to terms with things. We're coming to terms with how the past has been, how the present is, what the future is going to be, and how we can make the future better in our lives and in our country and in our world. So there's really kind of this humanitarianism thing that I'm feeling with this moon that's coming into play that can be really positive if we're looking at things. So we might not be ready to act and fight for these things yet, but we need to be speaking about them and having conversations and just like building our confidence. And then when we're ready to strike with that tail, we're going to be so fierce, and it's going to be magnetic and amazing. So it's going to be just awesome. And if you're ready to go strike right now, then that's the time for you. It might not be that way for everyone. Some of us may need to talk more about things to digest, to figure out where we're at in our lives before we act on that next big thing, before we strike and take all that we want and make the world the way we want it to be. We may need to sit back for a little bit before that. And this is a time, maybe by the new moon we'll be ready for that. Maybe right now we need to do more releasing of the past in our own lives and in a global sense and see where we can get from there. So maybe instead of acting right now, you can take time to work with the full moon energy, which is really more about just taking time to release. So think about that as well. And, do what feels right to you always. I'm always going to suggest that. We also have minor stars within lupus. So we have the wolf, which is the victim, which represents a sacrifice or an offering. And this can be aggressive, yet it can give us a keen desire for knowledge and passions. So we can really use, again, this energy from the minor stars within lupus, the wolf, to, again, work on that knowledge, that inquisitive energy that was brought out by the Mercury trine Pluto as well. We can still keep building that energy and working on these things that we're passionate about and bringing our passions into the world. We also finally have the fixed star Algol, which can bring about mob violence and outrage. So there's a lot of outrage happening, obviously, in the world right now on a lot of levels. And there's possibility for some violence to happen from that. So my stance on this is that, if you'd rather stay out of that type of situation, then you should work on that being more reflecting with mentors, spending time alone with your inner self and working on that kind of stuff instead of getting involved in violent struggles right now. However, if you want to show your outrage, that is beautiful and perfect, and Scorpio wouldn't have it any other way. If you want to transform into someone that's been quiet on an issue, into someone that is full of just energy and just, channeling that, if you can channel that rage in a positive way, then that could be really beautiful. So this doesn't have to be a negative fixed star, but it can also bring about some unsettling things. So there's a lot of different energies going on in this moon. It can get kind of heavy, but we need to remind ourselves that this heaviness is going to lead to an intense transformation, not only in ourselves, but in our world. So sometimes things have to get heavy and dark in order to become that beautiful, bright day after that darkness, right? So I really hope that you guys take some time to have wonderful conversations with people. I hope that you take some time to look within and see how you feel, to allow yourself to transform, to allow yourself to have that time to slow down during this full moon, to release, to do whatever it is that you need to do to feel good and be able to begin this sort of releasing cycle that we're going to start, right? And to be ready to transform and to let go maybe who you are now into who you're going to become by the next new moon. And I'm really excited to see all of the changes that happen for you guys, because I think this is going to be pretty intense and pretty radical. So yeah, go out and have beautiful conversations. Wow, this was a long one. So there was a lot to say on this one. But I love you guys, and I love that you listened, and I love that you're here for it. And I am just so grateful for all of you. And I hope you have a beautiful full moon. Namaste.